Hello, my name is Sana Green, and I am a healer, a person who is here to help reestablish the divine feminine in the world, an informal educator, a belly dance teacher, and I do a variety of things. And one of the things that motivated me to start this series, which is called The Gathering Wisdom Amidst COVID-19, is that I was wondering what are the lessons that we all can learn and take away from the coronavirus pandemic. Many of us have been in a sort of quarantine. We've been asked to stay home, cover our faces as we go out in public, and we've been in that posture since the middle of March. It's now almost the beginning of June. It'll be June 1st tomorrow. And I've talked to a variety of people who've given us great wisdom. Today, I'm with a man who I consider a mentor. He's been very helpful to me, even though we haven't spoken in a while. He's been very helpful to me. He's very wise, and he has a really unique concept that I really would love to share with us all. And so I'd like to introduce Zindua Tambuzi. How are you today?
How are you? Feeling
Good. Can
great?
you tell us a little bit about your background and who you are, how you came to how what kind of work you do, and how you came to develop your philosophy? I know that's a long question.
Okay.
Just tell us a little bit about yourself.
That's okay. Okay, my name is Zindua Tambuzi. I was originally born in Newark, New Jersey. I expanded myself beyond here upon leaving high school. I went to undergraduate school in North Carolina Central and HBCU, and I've
Woo!
completed. Yes, yes, yes.
Yeah, I went to
And then
Howard University.
pardon me,
I graduated from
you
Howard.
went to Howard?
Yes.
Oh, I didn't know you was a Bison. I had no idea.
Yeah.
Wow, I didn't know that. I wouldn't have been smiling so much. No, just kidding. No. So, so you're a Bison. Okay. So, yeah. So then I went to. I lived in Africa for 3 years. I taught math and I taught science and I taught biology. And as a result of that experience, it became transformational because I felt like I left being an African American and really became an African and understood what that meant internally. And as a result of that experience and that travel and that exposure, I realized that I was not going to Africa to help Africans. I was returning from Africa to help African Americans because I saw the greatest need being on this side, not on that side.
Now
So I began.
let me
Yes.
ask you. So when you went to Africa, I've talked to some people who have felt that one of the solution to many of the problems that African Americans are having, is to leave the United States and go back to Africa and repatriate and live there. So and they're pretty firm about that. Were you thinking that when you first went to Africa, and what is it about that experience that made you decide that maybe you could be more useful as in the United States as opposed to in Africa?
Well, that's a great question. I often thought that. I thought I could do this thing and not have to go back to the States and just throw my passport on the embassy desk and say, I won't be needing this anymore. So I thought that many a times, but I realized that my life was not my own. And I applaud people who feel that way, but I never felt that way. So as a result, I was like, why did the heavens put me on earth? And what am I here to do? And so that's the same motivation that drove me to Africa. So the same motivation that drove me to Africa is the same motivation that drove me back to America, because I was to teach, I was to organize, I was to train. And the only way we can begin to get from from under the circumstances we're in is to have an understanding of what we're in, how we're in it, why we're in it, and what it takes to get out of it. And so that's what drove me back here, because my own personal fulfillment I could have easily ensured 20, 30 years ago. But it wasn't just about me. It was about the impact and the legacy that I left on the planet relative to what I do with what I know, what I do with what I've learned. And so that's my motivation. That's my driver. And that's why I'm back in America.
Okay, great. One of the things I wanted to have you talk about, if you could, is a book that you recommended to me called Ask and It Is Given.
Yes.
You recommended a book to me, and the book is very interesting, and it's by a woman who has channeled some a spirit or a group of spirits called Abraham, and and when I read the book, I was really surprised, and so that to me shows a lot about what your thinking is and your belief system in your spiritual belief system. I would imagine. Now, can you tell us about that book and what you know about it, about
Sure.
Abraham? And
Yes. I know that book well. I first got a hold of it in 2006, and I've been reading it daily since 2006. So I know that book very well. What year did I suggest that to you? I'm shocked because I forgot that I had even mentioned it to you. Was it
yeah,
recently or a while back?
yeah, we
It
were
was a while back?
in Panera. It was probably 2009.
Okay, I thought it was a while back. Okay, okay. So I knew it was a while because when you said it, I said, I didn't even know. Yes.
Yeah, I don't think
Okay.
it's really called since 2009. Before about a month ago.
Right, right. Right. So that was about 10, 11 years ago. Yeah. So okay. That's what I thought I was missing something. Like, when did we talk about that? But yeah, okay. It was 10 years
Well, no, see, at that time,
ago.
I really have to say,
So, yes.
yeah, I really appreciated the coaching you were giving me, and that book really has helped
Mhm.
to shape my belief system, and it really opened up a lot of
Wow.
doors for me.
Fantastic.
So I really appreciate that, and I wanted to see if you could share something about that because I think other people might appreciate it as well.
Okay. Sure. Well, Asking It Is Given has been one of the more profound books that I have read in the last 10 years. I always feel like every 10 years there's a book that does some real shifting in me relative to the larger picture of what I try to be, what I try to do, what I try to have, and what I try to create. And it has walked me through calamities, tribulations, fears, insecurities, and allowed me to continue to believe that I can drink from the spirit what it is I need whenever I'm emotionally or psychologically thirsty. There'll always be enough for me to drink, and I'll always get my thirst quenched. So that's the essence of the book, but it teaches people how to be able to ask what it is you want and trust your faith that if you step into it with intention, that what you want is what you're going to focus on, then what you focus on will be what you attract. And as a result, circumstances, events, conditions, and people will come into your life, come into your world, come into your environment to match the desires of your heart. And so that's what the book is about, how to ask for the things that you desire and how to focus on what you want as opposed to focusing on what you don't want. Because when you focus on what you don't want, you're focusing on your insecurities, you're focusing on your fears, you're focusing on your doubt, and you're focusing on your skepticism. And if you're putting that much energy in your fears, your doubts, your skepticism, and your apprehensiveness, you created a magnet for the things that you don't want. And all magnets attract metal. And the metal is the very thing that you don't want. So
Mhm.
the book teaches you how to focus on what you do want so that that becomes the magnet you create. And then all kinds of things begin to line up to move you in the direction of what it is that you desire. And
Yeah,
so everything vibrates, everything radiates a signal, and everything attracts a matching signal. And when you test it, it will show itself.
Yes. Now that's an interesting concept, which I think can be revolutionary for a lot of people. The
Hmm.
concept that we are attracting, and on some level, are attracting whatever it is we're experiencing in our lives. Because we, I think, want to believe that we're innocent and that whatever is, and if there's a bad thing that's happening, or if we're going through a tribulation, we want to believe that the tribulation is the fault of someone else or the fault of something else, or and so how can we how do you see this concept being utilized during the pandemic? So we had the coronavirus, and there were a lot of people who were very afraid of contracting the virus. You know, probably primarily concerned that they could die. Do you think that there was any correlation at all? And I know this again might be controversial for some. On some level, do you think there might have been a correlation between the percentage of African Americans who passed away from the virus and the percentage of African Americans who live in a constant state of anxiety, trauma, and fear? Do you think that may have eh,
Well, I think as it relates to the virus, I don't think that what we experience happens in a vacuum because we create the circumstances that represent our lives. And what we're doing in May is a byproduct of thoughts we had in January. And we gave those thoughts life over time that manifests itself in May. So if we change our thinking in May, it's got to be seeded. And as time goes on, through that seeding, it will manifest its fruit. It may be October, it may be November, it may be 2023. But if we stay focused on the value and the beauty of what we seeded, we will see it manifest itself. And we can't let what we are looking at shape what we focus on, because what we're looking at is a result of what we thought about yesterday. What we're creating is a byproduct of what we desire tomorrow. And so our challenge is to be able to go inside to create what we want on the outside. And as we do that, we will not let circumstances, events, conditions, people reconfigure because of what we're staring at. If we don't like what we see, stop looking at it. Look at what we desire that's unseen and manifested. And that's our power. But the power is challenging our faith, because our faith says, look this way, but our addiction says, I'm looking at what I'm seeing and I'm going to react to what I'm seeing. And if you react to what you're seeing, you're not creating what you desire. And that's why my acronym for faith is following the aims and intentions true to the heavens. Following the aims and intentions true to the heavens, not to what you're afraid of, not to what you see, not to what you are perceiving can happen to you, but the aims and intentions true to the heavens. And if you do that, you'll manifest what that is. And in manifesting what that is, you'll get rid of what you're looking at that you don't want. You don't have to stare at it, just go to where you want. If you want to be in the right spot, you don't have to focus on the wrong spot. Just focus on the right spot and you'll move towards it, and the wrong spot will disappear.
yes,
So
yes.
that's
Yeah,
our
how
challenge.
do you when you were in Africa, or well, I guess I won't, let me say it this way. So one of the things that has happened in the United States recently is that we have had a couple of African American Black men who were killed on the street, one by a police officer, another by just people who lived in the neighborhood. I know you've given some thought to this, and I wanted to find out what are your impressions about that and about what's happening? Do you see any correlation between the fears that the world has had about the coronavirus and the civil unrest and the murders, I have to say, that have happened to African Americans. What is your opinion of that?
Well, a couple of things. One is you have to say murders because they are murders, and you got to call a murderer a murder. And when you do it, you empower yourself with your own truth. And how that is feeling to somebody else is not your business. Your business is to empower yourself with your truth, because your relationship in its greatest power is with the heavens that creates you, not the person that's around you. So when you allow that to be your driver, you create a laser targeted relationship with the spirit that will then empower you to manifest why you're here and what you asked for. I call that divine insurance. And once you keep your divine account together, you never have to worry about the minimum accounts of people and circumstances around you, because you got divine insurance. And there's no better insurance in the world than divine insurance. That being said, everything that is happening in the world is a byproduct of purging what people have created as a result of what they have felt, what they think, and what they do. What they felt, what they think, and what they do. Because the thoughts you have will create the feelings you have. And the feelings you have will create the results you get. So when you want to change what you're getting, you have to change how you're feeling by changing what you're thinking.
And this is a concept that Abraham, they
Exactly.
call it Abraham Hicks, but this is
Right.
a concept that's really present in Abraham Hicks, and ask and it is given. This is the concept from that book being put in actions, which is basically what
Exactly.
mm-hmm.
So African Americans live in fear. They live in fear emotionally. They live in fear psychologically. They feel acutely vulnerable. They are always worried about the abuse and misuse that will be lavished and perpetrated on them by white people on every level: emotionally, psychologically, spiritually, financially, business, education, interpersonally, culturally, the legal system, and law enforcement, and politics, and finances, and banking. At every level, they're in a canine den that is ripe to misuse or abuse. And because of that, they are afraid. We are angry. We are insecure. And the results of those emotions intensifies the magnet. It intensifies the vulnerability. It intensifies the manifestation of the very things that we don't want. When in reality, if we were clear about four things: what we want to be, what we want to do, what we want to have, and what we want to create, we would take our energy and celebrate our destination and create and use our time, use our energy, use our resources, use our minds, use our spirits, use our capacity to create the things that will get us to what we want, and that would dissipate what we're getting that we don't want. We personify the very things that we don't want by not being clear on what we do want, by not taking responsibility of what we do want, by not using our energy in what we do want, by not realizing it's our responsibility to be clear on what we don't. We know what we do not want, but we don't know what we do want. We don't want to be abused. We don't want to be embarrassed. We don't want to be enslaved. So those are things we don't want. We don't want to be killed. But we're not saying what we do want and shouldering the responsibilities of making what we do want happen, which will then nullify the things that we don't want. So we continue to get what we don't want, because what we don't want is what we keep worrying about and staring at, and we abrogate responsibility to create what we want. We want them to create a world for us. We want them to feed us. We want them as black men, we want them to protect us from them. That's insane. We want them to create an education system that make us sane. That's insane. We want them to provide and support jobs for us rather than support ourselves and provide jobs. That's insane. We want them to be the stewards, the fathers, the parents of our needs. That's insane. So our insanity projected out ignites the people that hate our existence. And so they move after the lowest hanging fruit of any of our people to bite them, chew them, and kill them at will. Knowing that we are not capable of defending ourselves, knowing that we are not organized, knowing that we're not confident, knowing that we have not developed the capacity to protect ourselves. It's like a deer asking a lion to protect her does. It's like a buck taking the deer to the lion to protect the deer because the doe doesn't feel like doing it. Excuse me, the buck doesn't feel like doing it. So as long as the buck abrogates his responsibility to protect the deer and the doe, as long as the deer abrogates his responsibility to the doe, and as long as both of those fools take him to the lion who eats deer meat and ask him to protect them, they will always be consumed. And that is the behavior that we operate from, because we've been removed as a result of slavery from shouldering our responsibility to our existence, and we have fell into the trap of thinking that's our entitlement. And the only thing that the heavens ever gives us is an opportunity to live. Not a right, an opportunity. What you do with it will determine whether you stay here or whether you're driven off the planet.
Well, so Tambuzi, what is the answer? I mean, what are, I mean, I don't know that there is one answer. I think we have to work on multiple fronts. I think people, I think Black people and our allies need to work on multiple fronts in order to create some solutions. What are some solutions that you think could be helpful given the situation that we're in right now?
Well, I think the first thing is us taking responsibility of our existence.
Well, what does that look like?
That looks like owning. If it's going to be, it's up to me across the board. Then getting clear on four things as a people: what we want to be, what we want to do, what we want to have, and what we want to create. And that requires internal commitment to answering those external questions.
Well, so
Once we,
how
excuse
would
me,
how will we do that? I mean, how will we do that? First of all, we're not homogenous, and I guess we probably need to start figuring out some ways that we can pull people, get more people to be engaged in this question. So I guess, do you think we need to get a core group together first and then have them spread that out? Do you think there's a particular group of people that we need to, particular industry or like therapists or teachers? But who do you think we need to talk to first in order to start shifting the?
well, I have a piece that says, if it's going to be, it's up to we, but it must first start with me. So if it's going to be, it's up to we, but it first must start with me. So each person has to start and ask themselves those four questions. And as they begin to get on the journey of the answers to those questions, they will begin to attract like-minded people who are committed to answering comparable questions. And as that begins to take place, resources, circumstances, events, and people will begin to nurture that pregnancy of an intention that will expand our ability to manifest what we need. Because there's 5 areas that we need in terms of resources to make that happen. We've got to be able to finance our existence. We've got to be able to develop businesses that fuel our community and our needs. We've got to have an education that we create for ourselves so that we will have the knowledge to develop the business, to generate the money, to be able to be self-sufficient. Then we've got to recreate our interpersonal relationships so that Black men and Black women become one. The restoration of the community will be an outgrowth of the restoration of the family, which will be an outgrowth of the restoration of the individual in the clarity of themselves. And then spiritually, we begin to focus on what it is we want to do and what is it the heavens wants us to do. And getting clear on that and strengthens and empowers us. And as we work at being a cell, an individual, and get clear and healthy, we then collaborate with each other and become tissue, which is a group of cells. And as these groups of cells become tissue and working together with that clarity, we become organs. And as we now become organs, we have functions to achieve what it is we want to be, do, have, and create. We develop organ systems. And as we develop organ systems, we become a body of people committed to what we are going to be for ourselves and what we're going to generate for ourselves and how we're going to protect ourselves en route to where we're going. It's a systematic process that enables us to put the resources we have, starting with what's in our mind, what's in our spirit, and what's in our heart. I have a piece that says, if you don't have heart, you are beaten before you start. So your faith must strengthen your courage. And as your faith strengthens your courage, your capacity to believe in your faith to reach what you want to be, what you want to do, what you want to have, and what you want to create will then get stronger, more empowered, and you'll see it coming to you more and more. And all of these obstacles will now begin to dissipate because you are building your inner, which will strengthen you in your outer, because now fear against your enemy is not your issue.
Fear. Wow, that's powerful. That's powerful. That's a mouthful. It's a mouthful. I think that it has a lot of merit, and you're right. We definitely have to be sure that we're not sidetracked and limited by fear. And I know that there's so much more that could be said, and I'm hoping that maybe we can put something together at another time, that maybe like a workshop where we can share some of the concepts that you're talking about with more people. Mm-hmm. So I'd like to thank you so much. I'm going to end it here, even though I know there's more that can be said, that needs to be said. And I'd like to thank you so very much for the wisdom that you shared. This is going to really be impactful to many people.
Great. And it's been my pleasure to do it. I look forward to our communicating again. And most importantly, I look forward to us being able to expand, because at every level, the universe is about expansion. And the only way you can grow is if you can get beyond yourself. One is not a multiplier. In order for it to be multiplication and expansion, there must be 2 or more. You can go one time, a million times, you only come out with 1. When you get 2 times anything, multiplication and expansion becomes an infinite part of what you can create. And as we begin to do that in all aspects of what we feel, what we desire, what we see, and what we want, we will consume resources and attract resources that will enable us to manifest what our heart desires. That's who we are. That's what we're capable of doing. And that will enable us to see physically what we see internally and in our vision about our heart's desires. Thank you
Yes.
so much.
Thank you so much. And thank you all for watching The Gathering with Sanaa Green. And I look forward to seeing you in another video. Be well.